Episode 137. Love does make a difference. Welcome back to One Extraordinary Marriage, where we talk sex, love, and commitment. You're here with Elisa DiLorenzo.
And Tony DiLorenzo.
Happy October.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, TikTok 2012 is coming to an end. And quickly. I know. It seems like this year is just flying by. I thought it was only when you were a kid that time seemed to fly by. But now that I'm a grown-up and you just have so many good and exciting things going on, it's like, wow. You know, time's just flying.
Yeah. And to all of you who are celebrating anniversaries this month, congratulations. This Friday, October 5th, Miss beautiful Elisa DiLorenzo, who's sitting across from me, we will be celebrating 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
16 years. And we are going to town. We will be at a business conference starting Friday morning.
Woohoo!
And it is a long conference, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Fortunately for us, here's the good part. Here in San Diego, 20 minutes from our home, we have a sitter where the kids will be staying all weekend long.
At their house.
At their house, yes. So we get to come home each and every evening to a quiet place and just chill. We will go and do a nice dinner after the conference on Friday night. Since we'll be by the coast, we'll probably head out to the coast somewhere, maybe figure out a place. Not sure where yet, but we'll find something and go chill and enjoy ourselves.
Okay, here's the thing, though. It's a date night, so we're not going to wing it.
I understand that.
Okay, because that kind of sounded like a... Let's do the, what do you want to have? I don't know. What do you want to have type of thing? We need to plan before Friday.
Yes. I just haven't planned yet.
Okay. As long as you all heard that Tony is planning this one, I just, since he just admitted that on the air, you all know to chime in to Tony with what he should be doing.
Right.
Or keeping him accountable. So
I know there's a Taco Bell right around the corner from the hotel where we're doing the conference.
You know what? Ironically enough, that would be kind of a cute thing.
Wouldn't it?
And the reason I say that, and I know some of you out there are going, seriously, Tony, Taco Bell? If you go back 18 years, so the summer we first met, the summer of 1994, Tony and I did a lot of late night Taco Bell runs.
Yes.
So it would be kind of funny. Not that I think my stomach could really handle it much anymore, but it would be funny to go to Taco Bell on our anniversary.
Right. Maybe what we can do that for lunch.
We'll see. Not a huge Taco Bell fan anymore.
I understand.
But yeah, it would tie in. I wouldn't be opposed to Taco Bell on Friday. Just I don't think dinner is Taco Bell.
All right.
Just saying.
Well, we hope you guys are having a fantastic and wonderful week, that you are just cranking along in your marriage, and that you've had a lot of fun. We are excited as this year does come to a close, and looking back on the podcast and looking back on One Extraordinary Marriage, how we have been able, and you have been able, to touch so many different lives across the world. It's just been awesome to see. And this week we're talking about, love does. And where it all comes from is that we got the opportunity to see this amazing author speak at our church last night. Name is Bob Goff, and he wrote a book called Love Does. I got to see him once. Elisa actually got to see him twice this week. Yeah,
he was also the keynote speaker for a Christian women's networking group. They were actually, it's called Professional Women's Fellowship. They were partnered with the male counterpart, which is CEO, which stands for
Christian Executive Officers.
So it was a mixed session this past week, and Bob was the speaker. And it was definitely one of those things where hearing the message the second time around, you always pick up those gems that you didn't hear the first time. But, he said some really powerful things. And I'm sure, there were some things that Tony definitely picked up on because they really resonate with who Tony is. And the two of us as well, and some of the things that we've incorporated into our lives. But, he talked about the fact, one of the things I love is he talks about the fact that he's been meeting with this group of guys in a quote unquote Bible study for years and years and years.
10
and
years.
And finally one day he's like, you know what? He goes, enough of this. Enough of this. Like, I know how to say, Dead Sea in Hebrew and Aramaic and Greek. And, I know what, this word means and that word means. But what are we doing?
Right.
What fabulous that we have all this book knowledge, but Jesus said, go out and love. And so that's really where where his passion came from and how he motivates and inspires people to go out and do what you were gifted to do. And I love that he says it's not what you're able to do, but what you love to do. Mm-hmm. He is a lawyer, which is kind of a funny thing because he's probably the most
charismatic.
Well, I don't know charismatic, but
animated.
Yes, animated. My experience with lawyers has always been that they're kind of, more stoic,
stuffy,
more reserved. And
nothing against you attorneys out there.
I know we've probably just alienated a handful of you going, oh my gosh. But
not alienate you.
As a general perception, stereotype, if you will, attorneys are more reserved and stoic. This guy gets up on stage and he is just hysterical. He relates this one story about how, he's traveling back and forth and he likens it to being in the witness protection program because he feels like he's just all over the country with book tour and offices and things like that. And he shares the story about how he was sitting in the exit row because he's so tall and one of the engines in the plane that he's flying in goes out, which he just thinks is the coolest thing because now they're actually going to have to do the emergency landing and he's sitting in the exit row. So finally he gets to do something. And so he starts telling all the people around him, look, when they deploy the, inflatable slide things that you always see on the side of the picture in your little fold out diagram, he goes, we should all cannonball because you're never going to get the chance to do this again. So go out and just cannonball down that slide. And then he looks at the audience wherever he's speaking and he goes, I'm going to cannonball into you. That's what Jesus wants us to do. He wants us to just cannonball in and just make a difference in this world. Stop being so polite. Stop, oh, I'm sorry. No, go out there and do something.
And more importantly, as we tie it in with One Extraordinary Marriage, do something in your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Do love. We've talked about this many a times over the years. And it is so important that people come up to us time and time again. I've read all the books. I've gone to this. I've done that. I've done this. I've done that. And then you ask the question, are you loving on your spouse? Are you doing something in your marriage to make a difference? And usually it's well, I need to learn this, or I need to do that, or I need to do this. Folks, sometimes you just got to do it.
Sometimes you just have to love.
Yeah, and just jump in and see what's going to happen. Because you don't know what's going to happen unless you start moving forward. The fear of moving forward, I get it. I get that point. We all have that period in our lives where sometimes we are so fearful of moving forward because of what might happen in the future. But we don't know what's going to happen. 5 years ago when Elise and I decided to do our 60 Days of Sex challenge, there was fear.
That was a big love does.
Yeah, there was fear there, though, of doing it. What would happen? But look what has happened. And for some of you, you're going, well, if I do that, my marriage may end. It might as well end. Here's the thing, folks. If you're in a relationship where it's abusive, where there's addictions going on, and you're trying to love, you're going out there and you're doing it, and you get down the road and you realize there's no change, that's cool. That's a positive in your life that you need to look at, and you got to go, you know what? I don't need to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
As much as that hurts, as much as I do not want to see divorce, as much as I do not want to see the breakup of marriages, if there is abuse, if there is addiction, if that is continuously going on, emotional, physical, if you're loving and it does not change that person, they have no way out, then you have a positive outlook. At least you've done the most that you could do. Mm-hmm. You can walk away with your head held high going, I did everything I was able to do. And I loved that person. I loved my husband. I loved my wife till the bitter end, till the end of this. I know that I did. And you can walk away with your head held high. No regrets, nothing. I truly believe that. Love can do that. It's okay.
Wow, I'm speechless.
Elisa's looking at me in shock.
I'm like, whew. I'm trying to think of the follow-up to that. It doesn't happen very often that he just absolutely causes me to be speechless. Wow, honey, that was really good.
Amen.
That was
All right.
definitely an amen.
All right.
Because the reality is, folks, is that, and I go back to what Bob Goff said, too often we just want to be liked, and we just want to keep the peace, and we don't want to rock the boat. And so it's easier to go along having a ho-hum life than it is to go out there and do that cannonball and make a difference in somebody's life, starting with your own and your marriage. I mean, cannonball it. Do the crazy stuff that no one else does so that you can have the relationship that no one else has. Make a decision that in your marriage, your spouse is going to come first. Because I can guarantee you can look around and see all the marriages where that is not true.
Right.
Make a decision that you're going to court your spouse, no matter how many years you've been married. Guess what? It's not happening out there. That's why people are looking elsewhere for affection. That's why people are going to pornography. They're not getting it in their marriage. They're not having... I'm not saying you have to meet all of your spouse's needs, because there is only one person that can do that, and that's God. But there are emotional needs. There are things that it takes two in a marriage to do. And that's where you got to jump in with both feet and say, you know what, I'm doing this love thing, and it's going to be wild and crazy. And yeah, some days it's going to be amazing, and some days I'm going to be like, what the heck am I doing? But when you have those kind of days, then you say, you know what, I'm making a difference.
Right.
I'm making a difference in my marriage. I'm making a difference in my legacy. I'm making a difference in the future of my children. I'm making a difference in my community, because you know what, I'm choosing to love instead of getting all wrapped up in what society tells us we should be doing, wrapped up in materialistic things, wrapped up in keeping up with the Joneses, wrapped up in my career's got to come first because, I've got to be at the very top of the food chain. So I'm going to sacrifice my family. I'm going to sacrifice my marriage. I'm going to sacrifice everything. I'm going to totally put that priority list upside down. When you decide that love is going to be the overriding factor in your relationships, everything starts to fall into place. One of the things that Bob shared, and this was a little bit of a tough pill for me to swallow. So he refers to Thursday as Thursday quit day. And so on Thursdays, he quits something. Sometimes it's something good that he'd like to keep doing, and sometimes it's something bad that he knows he shouldn't be doing. But, Thursday is quit day. So every Thursday, he quits something. And the reason that he does this is to make more room for God to work in his life.
So are you quitting Facebook on Thursday?
I told you this was a tough pill for me to swallow.
Mm-hmm.
I did, however, quit a mastermind group that I was in.
You did?
I did.
Which one?
I'm not going to go into it on the
okay.
air.
I didn't know that.
Sorry. I didn't do it on Thursday because it took me, I first heard Bob speak on Tuesday. And so I had to think, I'm like, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? So Thursday came and went, and I still hadn't decided. But then I started looking at my calendar going, okay.
Are you going to tell me after?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Oh,
All right.
You just hadn't mentioned it before.
Well, it hadn't come up in conversation. I didn't know I had to put my Thursday quit day things up on a calendar.
No.
Anyway.
You can let me know, though.
They really care. They don't care. It was just, I made a decision to quit a group because I didn't feel like I was able to give 100% to that group.
Got it.
And I felt the burden of being a part of that group because I wasn't keeping up with the work. And so I just said, you know what? It's not the right fit for me right now. So why am I, as Bob used in his talk, being a poser saying, oh yeah, I can do this. I can keep up with this. When really I can't and I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? Quit. And when somebody asks me why my this week it'll have to be, because it was Sunday instead of Thursday. But the point is, sometimes you have to quit things, good or bad, to make room for the work that God wants to do in your life and in your marriage.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we have to be able to let go of things.
And it's hard.
It's really hard. And I'll tell you, over the years, and you and I both know this, that we have become overscheduled at times. Mm-hmm. And Elisa and I will sit down because it'll come to a head where we're running around, we're doing all this stuff, we got to do this and we got to do that and run. And usually, you know what? It comes to a head here at home because we're short of temper with each other. We're short of temper with the kids. We can tell that our sex lives, our physical intimacy, it's down, it's strained. And then we'll usually, when that passes the next day, we usually sit there and go, we got too much.
Mm-hmm.
What's ending soon? What are we wiping off? Because we cannot do it. And you know what? Those are some of the toughest times. It really is. And I'm finding it, and I think you are too, more and more, people are not willing to say no. To just say, I'm done with it. I'm quitting this. I don't want it anymore. You know what, folks? There is nothing wrong. Nothing. And I don't know where this came about. There's nothing wrong with sitting around and being lazy on a Sunday. Nothing. When I grew up, my dad's a hardworking man to this day, even though he's like sort of semi-retired. He's a hardworking man. And I remember growing up, he's a contractor, busted his balls all week long. He'd come home. He'd even work Saturdays if he needed. But Sundays, he would usually just wake up early, because he always wakes up early.
Well, he's got to watch...
He has to watch his political show in the morning.
Yeah, I can't think of what it is. But yeah.
But he would wake up early in the morning, watch his show. After that, he'd get outside in the yard, just do his thing, tinker around here and there, mow the lawn, this, whatever. After lunch.
Pasta.
And when I grew up as a kid, yeah, Sunday, pasta, meatballs, the eggs, potatoes, the sauce homemade. Oh, love it, love it, love it. But after that, he would sit down to his Westerns or the Three Stooges or whatever it was, and he would just lie there and take a nap. He would just nap. Just chill. Nothing. Us kids could be bounding around. Usually we knew better. We just, did our own thing in our rooms, or we got outside. But I saw my dad rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at that and I go, you know what? That's what we need to be doing.
Tony so bought into that this week that he took 2 naps today on Sunday.
Well, this week, as we talk about Love Does, we have been big into the San Diego rescue mission for many years. Mm-hmm. I think it's 8 or 9 years now. And one of the big events they've put on over the last 6 years is called Sleepless San Diego. And it's this great overnight event held down at Liberty Station here in San Diego, which is across the bay from downtown. Just an awesome area. It used to be an old Navy barracks, and they've reconditioned and refurbished them into these businesses and restaurants and all sorts of cool things down there. Well, there's some big park areas, and this is where they hold Sleepless San Diego. Overnight event. You sleep out. They have great stuff going on. Good bands showing up. Really good and intriguing videos about the face of homelessness in San Diego and in this country. They have amazing speakers who have gone through, or I should say clients that have gone through the San Diego Rescue Mission, have come clean. They've gone off of drugs. They've gone off of alcohol. They've come off the streets. And now they are productive citizens in society again. So you get to hear their stories. And it's amazing how that has changed over the 6 years. Last night we saw a man, Jeremy, 33 years old, found himself at rock bottom. Rock bottom, 33 years old. Good-looking guy. Sharp guy. Not your face of homelessness. Not the guy you'd be thinking, gosh, why does this guy have a problem? Why is he sleeping out on the beaches and is a beach bum and, looking for that next drink? But he was 33 years old and found himself at the front steps of the San Diego Rescue Mission.
And this was a guy who had, had a well-paying job,
mm-hmm.
doing really well, living the life, paycheck to paycheck, enjoying all of the good things, and lost his job. And when he found employment again, it was as a grocery store stock worker,
mm-hmm.
stocking yogurt. I remember he was very adamant that it was the yogurt that he was stocking, and was still living the lifestyle of his previous sales job, but obviously not making the money. And, it was really one of those very sobering moments. I mean, Abby was sitting on my lap, and she even said today, she goes, that must have been really stinky to have to, because he ended up having to move back home when he was in the process of losing everything. And Abby's like, that would stink to move back home when you're in your 30s. And
we were like, yes, so don't do that.
Yeah. So that was another subtle little message to our children. But it really hit home to her that he had to, that was a desperation point. And even then, his alcoholism was raging so out of control that his parents kicked him out and said, you know what, this is going to hurt us more than it's going to hurt you, but you're out of here.
Yeah.
And so he was homeless for an extended period of time until he made it to the rescue mission, got in the program, actually found himself about 8 months in, having a bad day, took a drink, more than one, ended up being out of the program for 30 days because he has to be out of the program for 30 days once he, violates that clause. And during that 30 days made the decision, you know what, this is no way to live. So he went in and got himself, cleaned up, graduated from the program. He's back in sales, has put his life back on track. And this is part of the reason why we support the rescue mission.
The cool thing, though, that you get out of his talk, though, was that his love for Christ. Mm-hmm. He realizes how at that 8-month period, how he was letting his ego get in the way of, I can do this on my own. And he realized when he fell off the wagon and he was 30 days outside of the rescue mission, how much he needed Christ's love. Mm-hmm. And here's this guy going out there and he's sharing. So just something amazing. We're gonna have a video link to the San Diego, or the Sleepless San Diego, that happened 3 years ago. And that was like a March, April, May of 2009, where we were there as a family, and Elisa was on one of the cots, and she was just rocking Abby to sleep at the time. She was 3 years old. And a camera crew from one of the local stations came up and wanted to talk to Elisa. So we're going to have that clip up there for you guys to see, because it's just a beautiful clip, and one that we're very proud of. We're proud that we have been able to be a part of something that is making a difference in our city. Well, and the ability to involve our children. Yes. As well. Although Alex slept from the time we got there until the time we woke up this morning. Well, it is sleepless. Yeah, he didn't quite go into the whole sleepless thing. He got into his car, but he stayed awake long enough to make his little cardboard structure, and then he was out. He was so tired because Tony had taken him to the all men's gathering at our church yesterday morning. But and we got to talk about that too. We got to talk about that because that's another Love Does. But the thing with the rescue mission, and part of the reason why that clip matters so much, is that Abby and I were walking around last night. And keep in mind, that was filmed in 2009. Right. She was, 3 years old. But I was wearing the same coat. You'll see it in the clip. It's a red North Face jacket that I've had for 11 years. 11, almost 12 years. Tony got it for me for Christmas a gazillion years ago. And it's a great jacket, so I don't get rid of it even though I live in San Diego. Because I don't do cold very well, and my husband knows that. Anyway, so this guy last night, this teenager, sees me walking around and stops me and says, were you at Sleepless last year? And I said, no, we had to miss last year, but we've been the years prior to that. And he's like, but you're the one that was in the television clip. And it took me a minute, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, from a few years, I'm looking at Abby going, oh my gosh, how many years has it been? But then I realized that, the rescue mission still uses that to reach people, because you'll hear it in the clip as well. What I realized that night, what I saw again last night, because my daughter did not want to sleep on her own cot, so we shared a cot, which, there's nothing like sharing 24 inches with, an almost 7-year-old and yourself. But it put me in that place of going, okay, there are moms all over the world, right here in San Diego, but homeless everywhere, who don't have a place to put their children to sleep. Mm-hmm. And I will challenge you, one of the, they showed a 60 Minutes clip last night on homeless children and what an epidemic it's becoming in our schools. I believe the number now is like 1 in 4 nationwide. So I think it's almost 25% of children nationwide are homeless. And you can't tell, like if you saw them, you wouldn't necessarily know, but
we've got a problem here, folks. And if your heart is moved to help the homeless, if that is where you are gifted, whether it's in helping, find meals or fundraise or whatever your passion is, go out there and do it. There's a Christian song. I'll have to see if I can find it. But basically there's a line in the song that says, break my heart for what breaks yours.
Mm-hmm.
It's a plea to Christ to feel for those that Jesus feels for. And so I don't know what that is for you. I don't know if it's the homeless. I don't know if it's unwed mothers. I don't know if it's the elderly. I don't know if it's the sick and dying. I don't know who that is for you. But there is somebody that you are thinking about, or a population of people that you are thinking about as we talk about Love Does today, that you're like, that's who I'm supposed to help. Get out there and do it. Get out there, because there are people hurting that they're just waiting to be loved on.
Yeah.
They are waiting to be recognized by somebody that, because they feel invisible. And to tying this back to your marriage, it may be the person you're married to.
Yeah.
It may be the person you sit across the table from, that you guys have put up so many walls that they don't even feel like you see them anymore. So maybe it starts with looking across the table and saying, hey, I love you. I'm sorry for what's happened in the past.
Yeah, it's time to work on this. It's time for us to get back to that place where we can love on each other, that we can take care of each other, that we can just cherish each other, that we can look into each other's eyes and see the sparkle, the gleam, all that good stuff that happens when you truly just are just loving on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing too, folks, for many of you who have kids, get them involved. And if they're young like ours or younger like ours, you're going to hear the frustration and the angst from them, and the kickback that they don't want to go, or this or that or the other. You know what? We hear it too. We do. It's not all rosy. It's not all perfect. There's constant battling that will happen in our household. But I will say this. They grab it. They get it. Get them involved somehow, some way with what you're doing.
Well, and it can be something super small, you guys. I mean, last night we were standing getting something to eat, and this woman walks up and asks for a bottle of water, not realizing that she was at more like a concession type setup, where they were selling the food, as opposed to just somebody, like one of their tables. It sounded like they were passing out water earlier in the evening. And so the kid working the cash register said that'll be $1. And she was obviously flustered. She was not homeless. She was just, somebody that was there for the evening. And so she walked away, just, off to look for water. And so I handed the kid $1, and I gave Abby the water bottle, and I said, Abby, run up and give it to her. So Abby runs up to this woman and says, taps her on the arm and says, this is for you. And you can tell, we were about, 20, 30 feet away. And you could tell the woman was confused, why is this little girl giving me a water bottle? And so, Abby, I'm sure, said something to her about, my mom got you a water bottle. So the woman comes back and says, you did this for me? And I said, yeah, you were thirsty and you didn't expect to have to pay. And so I had the money and I paid for you. And she looks at me, she goes, but I'm not homeless. And I said, that's okay. You're thirsty. So I'm not concerned. Your home status is not a concern to me. I mean, obviously we're at sleepless homeless benefit, but she just looked at me, and the next thing I know, I'm getting this amazing hug from this woman. She's like, thank you very much. I said, no problem. Enjoy your water. And she went off, and, I was able to involve Abby in a very just teachable way.
Right.
If we've got it, we give it. And we change somebody's evening. She went from being disappointed not to have water to amazed that a complete stranger would just buy her a bottle of water. And really, did it make a difference? To our financial picture? No. And that's, sometimes it's a sacrifice, sometimes it's not, but it made a difference to her.
Mm-hmm.
And getting that hug made a difference to me. I didn't do it to get any type of recognition. I just did it because she was thirsty. Take advantage of those moments, guys. Take advantage of those moments in your marriage to do something for your spouse just because, not because you want something from them, not because you're trying to manipulate the circumstances to be favorable for you. Do something for your spouse just because you're married to them.
Yeah.
Because.
Not having that expectation for something in return, I will tell you, will alleviate so much of your angst and frustrations in your marriage. It really will. And having just gone through it numerous times over the years that Elisa and I have been married, one of the biggest things that has helped me is just not expect anything in return. There is no chart in my head going, if I do this, she's going to do that, and if I do this, she has to do that. It is so helpful, and it is a complete mind shift. It will take loads of work on your part to just allow yourself to go, you know what? I'm doing this with nothing in return. Nothing. And lots of prayer. I mean, lots of prayer, for yourself and for your spouse. Because it just, for myself, again, and I'm going to bring it back to the dishes, because this is one of those big ones in our marriage that was always the issue. It was the big one to me, and it seems so trite. I mean, it's the dishes, for crying out loud. And I would feel like if I did the dishes, Elisa owed me huge. Like, I should have been given a blowjob, plus some sex, plus something else. I mean, it was just that big to me.
Wow.
I know. But see, that's what you build that stuff up in your head.
Those expectations.
And then it doesn't come along, and you're frustrated, and you're going, well, why doesn't my spouse or my wife love me, or why doesn't she do this for me? I mean, I did the dishes, But as I've worked through this over the years, it's just like a no-brainer now. I mean, it's the dishes. I put them away. I don't expect anything in return. It's the laundry. I do it because I'm part of this family. I'm part of this household. It's, just sort of picking up after my own self when I make messes, because it's just what you have to do without expecting anything in return. And I would expect it makes a huge difference in the way you interact with me.
Oh, absolutely. Because there isn't this scorecard anymore in our marriage.
Right.
And for many years we had like gigantic neon billboard size scorecards on both sides. Well, I did this. Well, you owe me. I was home with the kids all day, so you owe me at least one night out where I can go out without the kids, and you owe me, peace and quiet for a little bit. Just all of this, you owe me. And that's how we, a lot of times we don't even say it out loud, but it sits there in the back of our head going, that's going to cost you. That one's going to, and it's so funny that we're even, kind of digressing into this, because Tony changed my headlight today on my van. My poor van. It's dying a slow death. But I joked with him. I'm like, I bet, he's like, well, yeah, the headlight was only $10. And I said, yeah, but what's it really going to cost me? And we can joke about it now.
Right.
Because of where we've gotten to in our marriage. 7, 8, 9 years ago, I would not have made that joke, because I did not want to know what was on the other side of that answer.
Right. A little tip, or a little bit on our van. I just want to say this for all you Dave Ramsey folks out there. We have had this van since 2003. Mm-hmm. So 9 years. It has almost 210,000 miles on it. It's about to just break down. It still keeps going. It's not, there are just issues that need to be taken care of, and we're not going to put the money into it because it's just not worth it. And I got to say, this has been the most fun we've had with the car, because it's been our goal to make sure that we have enough money saved to buy our next car, number one. And number two, we've never had a car this long and just beat the living crud out of it.
Yes.
And so this thing is at almost 210,000 miles. We'll sell it for probably $1,000 and move on.
Yeah. But again, it goes back. It's become, here's love in action. It's become this conversation piece between the two of us where, Tony knows I need to replace my car, but we're on the same page in a financial intimacy point of view, going, okay. Even the kids are like, oh, Mom, get this, get that. And I go, honey, that's not what I have saved up. you can't get that. That's not even, they want, bells and whistles and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, we're going to buy used because we always buy used. It's just what we do. So it's got to be in the budget.
Right.
Period. This is how much cash I have. Everything for the new vehicle has got to fit in that magic number. And we are having fun with it. I mean, I'm joking. I'm like, okay, really? After my last oil change, when they're like, and you need this, and you need this, and you need this, and I'm like, cha-ching, 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 and then the headlight goes out the next day. I'm like, wow, car, it
didn't go out the next day. The headlight went out before you even went in.
Oh, you're right. It was like the day before. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, part of it is love and action gets you on the same page with your spouse. And that's really what the whole car story is about, is that when you're being active, because love is a verb, folks.
Yeah.
Love does. And there is the book of Acts in the Bible. Why? Because God wants us to act. Okay? There's all this action.
Right.
Love does not sit around waiting to be catered to. Love does. Bob Goff's book, there's an easier read to just sit down and say, what does this mean in my life? What does this mean in my marriage? What do I need to change about me to be showing love in action to my spouse? What is that in our marriage? I challenge you this week to figure out what the love action is that you need to be doing for your spouse, what the love action is you need to be doing for your community. Because I would guarantee that those of you that are listening this week have thought answers for both of those things.
Mm-hmm. And that love action also may be, what am I quitting? That,